You should be more like your sister." Those 7 words destroyed Emily in front of the entire family at Christmas dinner. But you know what happened right after. She looked straight into her father's eyes and said something no one had ever had the courage to say. The entire room froze. What she responded changed everything. And what if I tell you that this was the best decision she ever made in her life? Stay until the end, because what Emily did after will make you rethink everything about family, self-love, and courage. You know what the worst pain of all is? It's not being rejected. It's growing up next to someone who will always receive more love than you. It's realizing that no matter how much you try, you'll never be enough in the eyes of who matters most. It's seeing your sister receive everything you always wanted and never got. The attention, the pride, the sincere hug from your father. Emily knows this pain better than anyone. Since she was little, she learned to swallow the feeling of being the second choice. She learned to smile when her heart was broken. She learned to accept crumbs of affection while watching her sister Jessica receive the entire banquet. Have you been through this? Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, you'll never truly be seen? Have you ever cried alone in your room after being compared to someone once again? Then you'll understand every second of Emily's story, because this isn't just her story. It's the story of thousands of people who grew up invisible inside their own home, who carry deep wounds caused by those who should protect, not hurt, who one day had to make the hardest decision of their lives, choose between continuing to suffer or breaking free. Last Christmas, Emily was sitting at that dinner table, surrounded by family, but completely alone. And when her father James let out that cruel phrase in front of everyone, something inside her broke. But something was also born, a strength she didn't even know she had. What happened that night changed Emily's life forever, and it can change yours too. Before we continue, tell me, what city and country are you watching us from? Leave it here in the comments. I really want to know. Emily was 6 years old when she felt the bitter taste of rejection for the first time. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a fight. It was something worse. It was silence. It was a Saturday morning, and she had woken up early, full of excitement. She had a surprise for her dad. She spent hours at the kitchen table, her tongue sticking out from so much concentration, drawing with her colored pencils. She made their house, the garden with the flowers that Barbara planted every summer, and the whole family together. Her, Jessica, her mom and dad, all holding hands. She even put a giant sun in the corner, yellow and bright, because she wanted the drawing to be happy. When James came from the garage, Emily ran to him, her heart beating hard in her chest, her little hands sweaty, holding the paper. "Dad, Dad, look what I made for you." James stopped. He looked at the drawing, 2 seconds, maybe 3. "Oh, that's nice, Emily. It'll look good on the fridge." And he kept walking, going straight to the living room to watch the game on TV. Emily stood there, holding that drawing. The emotion that was in her chest kept shrinking, until it became a tight knot in her throat. She didn't cry. A child still doesn't fully understand pain, but feels it, and she felt it. Barbara saw the whole scene. She came to Emily, took the drawing, and hung it on the fridge with a heart magnet. "It's beautiful, my love. Mommy loved it." But her mother's hug didn't erase the feeling of emptiness that Emily felt when her father simply turned his back. 3 days later, Jessica made a drawing at school. It was a simple scribble, some crooked lines that didn't even form anything recognizable. But when James saw it, his eyes sparkled. He picked Jessica up, spun her in the air, laughed out loud. "My artist! You're incredible, Jessica. Let's put this on the fridge, right in the middle, for everyone to see." Emily was sitting on the stairs, watching everything. Her drawing was still on the fridge, but pushed to the corner, half hidden behind a bill notice. Jessica's drawing was placed right in the center, with 3 magnets holding it, as if it were a masterpiece in a museum. That day, something inside Emily began to understand. She wasn't the same as Jessica, not in her father's eyes. The years went by, and that difference only became clearer. Every time Emily brought home a report card with high grades, James would just sign and return it. Good job. That's it. No hug, no celebration, without that look of pride that every child wants to see on their father's face. But when Jessica got a B in math, something Emily always got an A in, James celebrated as if she had won a gold medal. "My girl is killing it! Let's go out for ice cream tonight to celebrate." Emily heard that from the kitchen, helping Barbara wash the dishes. She felt her chest tighten, her eyes burn, but she swallowed it, always swallowed it. There was one time, Emily was 9 years old, when she won first place in a writing contest at school. Among all the fourth-grade children, the teacher chose her text. She was so happy, so proud. She ran home with the certificate in her hand, her cheeks red from running so much. "Dad, Dad, I won! Look, first place!" She showed the paper, hoping, praying for that look of pride. James was on the couch, on his phone. He looked up for a second. "Oh, cool. Congrats, Emily," and went back to his phone. Cool, congrats. 2 empty words that didn't warm anything inside her. 2 months later, Jessica joined the school cheerleading team. She wasn't even good. She stumbled in the steps. But James reacted as if she had been chosen for the Olympics. He called the grandparents, the uncles, posted a photo on Facebook with the caption, "My daughter is a star." He even bought a new, more expensive uniform because the school one didn't do justice to her talent. Emily saw the post, read the comments, everyone praising Jessica. No one mentioned the writing award that Emily had won. No one knew, because James never told anyone. That night, Emily cried into her pillow. She cried quietly, so no one would hear. Because she was beginning to understand something devastating. No matter what she did, it would never be enough. She would never be Jessica. Barbara tried to compensate. She praised Emily, hugged her, said she was proud. But Emily didn't just want her mother's love. She wanted her father's love. She wanted him to look at her the same way he looked at Jessica. She wanted to feel that she mattered. But that day never came. The comparison started early, too. At family parties, James always found a way to put Jessica in the spotlight. "Look at Jessica, so smart, so beautiful. She's going to be something big when she grows up." And Emily? Emily was always there beside her, invisible, as if she were a piece of furniture in the room. Once, at Thanksgiving dinner, her aunt asked about the girls. James answered with a huge smile. "Jessica is doing great in school, loves to dance, she's the joy of the house. And Emily? Well, Emily is doing well too. Emily is doing well too." As if she were just a footnote in the family's story. She tried not to care. She tried to convince herself that it didn't matter. But it mattered. It mattered so much that it hurt physically. It hurt in her chest, it hurt in her throat, it hurt in every corner of her body. Emily spent her entire childhood trying to figure out what she was doing wrong. Why didn't her father love her the same way? What did Jessica have that she didn't? She looked in the mirror, looking for flaws, looking for the answer. But she never found it, because the problem was never Emily. The problem was always James. But a child doesn't understand that. A child just feels that she's not good enough, and carries that pain as if it were truth. And that pain would grow with Emily. It would transform into something bigger, heavier, harder to carry. Until one day, years later, it would explode in a way that no one expected. But before that, many things were still going to happen. A lot of pain was still going to be accumulated. And Emily was still going to try, in every possible way, to conquer something she should never have needed to conquer. Her own father's love. Now tell me, have you ever felt this pain of being compared to someone in your own family? Of never being enough? Leave it here in the comments, because I want to hear you. And if this video is touching your heart, give it a like to help me reach more people who need to hear this story. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more emotional family drama stories like this one. Emily was 15 years old when she realized that no matter how big her achievement was, James was never really going to see her. He was never going to stop what he was doing and look at her with that genuine pride she so desired. She was in high school now, and she had decided she was going to work harder than ever. If her father didn't notice her achievements before, she was going to achieve things so big that he wouldn't be able to ignore them. She was going to be so good, so perfect, that he would finally look at her and say, "I'm proud of you, Emily." So Emily started dedicating herself. She studied late into the night, did all the extra assignments, raised her hand in every class, and it worked. At the end of the first semester, she brought home a perfect report card. A's in all subjects, every single one. She walked into the house with the paper in her hand, her heart beating fast. She found James in the kitchen, drinking coffee. "Dad, look, I got A's in everything, in all subjects." James took the report card, glanced over it quickly. "Oh, very good, Emily. Keep it up." He returned the paper and picked up his phone to check something. Keep it up. As if it were simple. As if it didn't mean sleepless nights. Tears of frustration over difficult math problems. Skipped lunches to study in the library. As if it didn't mean anything. Emily stood there, holding that report card that seemed so important 5 minutes ago and now seemed like just a worthless piece of paper. She went up to her room, closed the door, and sat on the bed. She didn't cry. She was already tired of crying, but the pain was there. It always was. A few weeks later, Emily saw a poster in the school hallway about the girls' volleyball team. They were holding tryouts for new members. Emily had never played volleyball in her life, but she thought, maybe this will get his attention. Sports. Dads like sports, right? She spent weeks training alone in the backyard. She practiced serves against the garage wall until her arms hurt. Barbara watched from the window, worried, but said nothing. She knew what Emily was doing. She was trying to be seen. On the day of the tryout, Emily was nervous, but determined. And to her surprise, she did well, very well. The coach liked her dedication, the strength of her serves, and her speed. Emily made the team. She ran home with the news. She found James in the garage, working on something in the car. "Dad, Dad, I made the school volleyball team. The tryouts were today, and I passed." James raised his head, wiping his hands on a grease-stained cloth. "Oh, that's cool, Emily. Volleyball, huh? Good luck with that." And he went back under the hood of the car. Good luck with that, as if she had said she was going to start collecting stamps. No emotion, no real interest, nothing. Emily felt something break inside her at that moment. It wasn't anger. It was worse. It was giving up. It was starting to believe that maybe she really wasn't worthy of attention. But she didn't give up. Not yet. Emily continued playing volleyball, continued getting high grades, continued doing everything perfectly. At the end of the year, she won the award for Best 10th Grade Student. At the awards ceremony, in front of all the parents, teachers, and students, they called her name. Emily went up on stage, received the certificate and small trophy, and looked for her father in the audience. James wasn't there. He had said he would be. He had promised that morning. "Of course, Emily. I'll be there." But when the time came, he sent a message. "Sorry, something came up at work." "Congrats on the award." Emily came down from the stage with the trophy in her hand, smiling for the photos, pretending everything was okay. But inside, she was shattered. Barbara was there, applauding with tears in her eyes, proud. But Emily wanted her dad. She just wanted her dad. When she got home that night, James was on the couch watching TV. "So, how did it go?" he asked, without taking his eyes off the screen. "It was good," Emily answered, her voice low. She went up to her room and put the trophy on the shelf, along with all the other certificates and awards that James never saw. The months went by, and Emily kept trying. She signed up for the debate club and won first place in the regional tournament. James said, "Cool," and kept reading the newspaper. She was chosen to be a math tutor for younger students. James said, "That's good," and changed the subject to talk about his work. Emily was beginning to realize something terrible. No matter what she did, James was always going to have something more important to pay attention to. Work, the car, the TV, his phone. There was always something between him and her. Always. One night, Emily was doing homework at the kitchen table when Barbara sat down next to her. "My love, are you okay?" Emily looked at her mother, and for the first time in a long time, told the truth. "I don't know what to do, Mom. I do everything right. I get good grades, I win awards, I join the team, I help at home, but he doesn't even care. It's like I'm invisible." Barbara held Emily's hand, her eyes full of sadness. "I know, honey. I see it, and I'm so sorry. You deserve so much more." "So why doesn't he see me?" Emily asked, her voice breaking. "What's wrong with me?" "There's nothing wrong with you, Emily. Nothing. The problem isn't you." But Emily couldn't believe that. Because if the problem wasn't her, then why did Jessica receive everything she didn't? Why did Jessica get their father's attention without even trying, while Emily tried with all her strength and got nothing? The feeling of not being good enough was deepening more and more in Emily's heart. It was taking root, spreading, poisoning every part of her. She looked in the mirror and saw someone who wasn't worth it. Someone who, no matter how hard she tried, would never be enough. And the worst part, she was starting to accept that as truth. But Emily's life was far from over, and things were about to get even harder. Because while Emily fought to be seen, Jessica was receiving all the attention in the world, and this brutal difference was creating a wound that, over time, would become impossible to ignore. If you want to understand Emily's pain, you need to understand what it was like to watch Jessica receive everything she never had. It wasn't just different, it was cruel. It was like watching someone breathe while you're drowning. Jessica didn't need to try. She woke up, existed, and that was enough for James. Everything she did was a reason to celebrate. Everything. Emily remembers a specific day. She was 16 years old. She had just gotten home after a volleyball game where her team won and she made the decisive points. She was sweaty, tired, but happy. She walked through the front door hoping maybe, just maybe, to tell her father about the victory. But when she walked in, the house was celebrating. Literally. There were balloons in the living room, a cake on the kitchen table, and James had his phone in his hand taking pictures of Jessica. "What's happening?" Emily asked, confused. Barbara came to her with a somewhat awkward smile. Jessica was chosen to be captain of the cheerleading team. Captain of the cheerleading team, and there was cake, there were balloons, there was James posting on Facebook with the caption, "My daughter is a leader, so proud of this girl." Emily had just won an important game, had been the best player on the court, and no one even asked how it went. No one even knew she had a game today. She went up to her room without saying anything. She sat on the bed and grabbed her phone. She opened Facebook and saw her father's post. It already had 50 likes, 20 comments, everyone congratulating Jessica. What an amazing girl. You must be so proud. Jessica is going places. Emily closed the app and threw her phone on the bed. She lay on her side, staring at the wall, listening to the laughter coming from downstairs. Was it Jessica's birthday? No. Had she accomplished something difficult? No. She had just been chosen captain of a school cheerleading team. And there was a party. Emily never had a party for any of her achievements. Never. The days went by, and it became impossible not to notice the pattern. Jessica got a B on a test. James celebrated. "Look at that. You're improving so much, Jessica. Keep it up." Emily got an A. Silence. Jessica posted a selfie on Instagram. James was the first to like and comment, "My beautiful girl," with 3 heart emojis. Emily posted a photo with the debate championship trophy. James didn't even see it. There was one time when Jessica decided to take singing lessons. She wasn't good. Not at all. Emily heard through the thin walls of the room, and it was painful to listen to. But James thought she was the next big music star. He paid for expensive private lessons, bought a professional microphone, even suggested she record and post on YouTube. You have talent, Jessica. The world needs to hear your voice. Emily played piano. She had been playing since she was 8 years old. She had competition certificates, could read sheet music, could play complex pieces by Chopin and Debussy. James never went to any of her recitals. Not one. Once, Barbara suggested that James go see Emily play at a school performance. He said he would, but at the last minute he canceled. Something came up. Something always came up. But when Jessica had her first singing show at school, a 5-minute performance at the talent show where she sang off-key to a popular song, James was there in the front row. He recorded everything, posted it on Instagram stories, called the grandparents to tell them how amazing Jessica was. Emily was there too, backstage, because she was helping organize the festival event. She saw everything. She saw her father give a standing ovation. She saw him hug Jessica afterwards. She saw the pride on his face. And she felt something break inside her chest. Why? That question wouldn't leave her head. Why did Jessica deserve that and she didn't? What did Jessica have that she didn't? Emily started comparing herself to her sister obsessively. She looked in the mirror looking for differences. Was Jessica prettier? More charismatic? Funnier? What was it? She tried to imitate Jessica sometimes. She wore similar clothes, tried to talk the same way, laugh the same way, but it didn't work. James kept seeing only Jessica. Family parties were the worst moments. James always found a way to put Jessica in the center of attention. On Thanksgiving, he made a toast. To Jessica, who is growing up and becoming an incredible woman. I'm so proud of everything you're becoming. Emily was sitting on the other side of the table. No one made a toast for her. No one mentioned her name. On James's birthday, the whole family gathered to celebrate. During dinner, he spent 20 minutes talking about Jessica's achievements, showing photos on his phone, telling stories. When someone asked about Emily, he said, "Oh, Emily is fine, getting good grades, as always, as if it were automatic, as if it didn't require effort, as if it didn't mean anything." Emily was starting to believe that it really didn't mean anything, that she didn't mean anything. There was a moment that marked her forever. Emily was 16 years old. Jessica was 18. Jessica had just been accepted to a community college. It wasn't Harvard. It wasn't Yale. It was a normal local college. But James reacted as if she had won a full scholarship to a prestigious university. He organized a celebration dinner at an expensive Italian restaurant. He called the entire extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents. There was even a cake with "Congratulations, Jessica," written in icing. 3 months earlier, Emily had won a full scholarship to a summer program at a prestigious university, something that only 10 students from the entire state achieved. She showed James. He said, "Congratulations, that's great," and went back to watching TV. No dinner, no party, no family gathering, nothing. That night at Jessica's dinner, Emily sat at the end of the table, smiling when she had to smile, answering when someone asked her something, but inside she was bleeding. She was wondering what was so wrong with her that not even her brightest successes could earn a look of approval from her father. And the answer she started to believe, that the problem was her, that she had no value, that she simply didn't deserve to be loved the same way. This lie was becoming her truth. And the more time passed, the more she believed it. Have you ever felt like this? Like no matter what you did, it would never be enough? Leave it here in the comments, because I know you're not alone in this pain. There's a point in life when pain transforms into desperation, and desperation makes you do things you never imagined you would do. Emily reached that point. She was 17 years old now, and she was tired of being invisible. Tired of watching Jessica receive everything effortlessly while she fought for crumbs. So Emily made a decision. She was going to do everything, absolutely everything. She was going to become so perfect, so impressive, that James would have no way to ignore her. That's when the madness began. Emily enrolled in everything the school offered. Math club, joined. Science club, joined. Library volunteer work, joined. Chemistry tutoring, joined. She filled every free minute of the day with activities, hoping that in one of them, James would finally notice. She woke up at 5 in the morning to study before school. She spent lunch hour in the library doing extra assignments. After class, she had volleyball, then debate club, then tutoring. She got home at 8 at night, ate dinner quickly, and stayed up studying until midnight. Barbara started to worry. "Emily, you're killing yourself. You need to rest." "I'm fine, Mom," Emily lied. She wasn't fine. She was exhausted, with deep dark circles, losing weight because she didn't have time to eat properly, but she couldn't stop, because stopping meant accepting that she would never be enough. One day, Emily won 3 awards at once: Best Student in Chemistry, Community Leadership Award, and recognition for 50 hours of volunteer work. She came home with the 3 certificates and a hopeful smile on her face. James was in the living room with Jessica, watching some show on TV. Emily walked in, took a deep breath. "Dad, look, I won 3 awards today." James looked over his shoulder. "Oh, that's cool, Emily. Congrats." And he turned back to the TV, 3 awards. In one day, and all she got was a "that's cool," without even looking into her eyes. Emily went up to her room, threw the certificates on the bed, and looked at herself in the mirror. Who was that girl looking back? Dark circles, thin face, tired expression. She was destroying herself, trying to earn love, and it wasn't working. But Emily didn't give up. She changed strategy. If achievements didn't work, maybe being useful at home would work. She started doing everything in the house. She washed dishes without anyone asking, cleaned the kitchen, vacuumed the living room, washed James's car every Saturday. "You don't need to do this, my love," Barbara said, worried. "I want to help," Emily answered. But it wasn't about helping. It was about being seen. It was about making James realize that she existed, that she had value. She woke up before everyone else to make fresh coffee. She left the newspaper on the table where James sat. She folded his clothes coming out of the dryer. She did everything she could think of to show that she cared, that she was there, that she deserved attention. James accepted everything as if it were her obligation. He never thanked her, never acknowledged her. He just lived his life while Emily killed herself, trying to impress him. So Emily tried something else. She observed Jessica. What did she do that was so special? How did she talk? How did she dress? What did she like? Emily started imitating her sister. She bought clothes similar to Jessica's. She changed the way she styled her hair. She tried to use the same slang, the same tone of voice. She started watching the same shows that Jessica watched, just so she could talk about them. It was pathetic and painful, because Emily was erasing who she was trying to become, a copy of someone James actually loved. Barbara saw what was happening and tried to talk. "Emily, why are you wearing that outfit? It's not your style." "I just wanted to change a little," Emily lied. "My love, you don't need to be like Jessica. You're incredible just the way you are." But Emily didn't believe that, because if she were really incredible, her father would notice, and he didn't. There was a day when Emily decided to make James's favorite dinner, lasagna. She spent the entire afternoon cooking, following a complicated recipe, perfecting every detail. She set the table beautifully, lit candles, made everything perfect. When James got home from work, Emily was nervous, waiting. "Dad, I made your favorite dinner." James looked at the table. "Oh, lasagna. Cool." He sat down, ate in silence, looking at his phone, and then went to the living room to watch TV. Not a thank you, not a "it was good." Nothing. Emily started cleaning the kitchen with tears running down her face. Barbara came to help, but said nothing. What could she say? They both knew the painful truth. No matter what Emily did, James wasn't going to change. The months went by, and Emily became more and more exhausted. Physically exhausted from doing everything. Emotionally exhausted from trying and always failing. Mentally exhausted from not understanding why. She started having anxiety attacks. She woke up in the middle of the night with her heart racing, sweating cold, feeling like she couldn't breathe. She had constant headaches. She stopped sleeping properly. At school, teachers started asking if she was okay. Friends noticed she was different, quieter, more distant. But Emily said everything was fine. She always said everything was fine. The truth? Everything was falling apart. Every frustrated attempt to earn James's approval was leaving a deeper mark on Emily's self-esteem. She was starting to truly believe that she had no value, that she was defective, that there was something fundamentally wrong with her that made even her own father unable to love her. There was a night when Emily was in her room, looking at all the trophies, certificates, and awards on the shelf. There were dozens of them. Proof that she was intelligent, talented, dedicated. But none of them meant anything, because the only person whose approval she really wanted would never give it. She thought about giving up, stopping trying, accepting that she would always be invisible in her father's eyes. But something inside her still resisted. There was still a small spark of hope saying, "Try one more time. Maybe this time he'll see." But that hope was fading fast, and Emily was getting lost in the process. She was becoming an empty version of herself, chasing something she could never reach. And the worst was yet to come, because Emily's desperate attempts were just the beginning. The next phase would be even more painful. It would be public humiliation. It would be seeing the love she never had thrown in her face in front of everyone. It was a hot Saturday in July, and the whole family was gathered in the uncle's backyard for the annual 4th of July barbecue. There was music playing, the smell of meat on the grill, children running between the tables, adults talking in groups. It was supposed to be a happy day. Emily was sitting in a lawn chair near the pool, drinking a soda, trying to look relaxed. But then she heard James's voice coming from the other side of the yard. He was talking to Uncle Mark and some of his friends. "My daughters are so different," James said, laughing. "Jessica is outgoing, charismatic. Everyone loves her. And Emily, well, Emily is more to herself, quiet, too serious for her age." Emily froze. She felt her face get hot, her stomach turn. He was talking about her, in front of everyone, and they weren't good things. Uncle Mark asked, "But isn't Emily the one who gets excellent grades?" "Oh, yeah," James answered, shrugging. "She's smart, but intelligence isn't everything, right? Jessica has personality. She has her own light. Emily is more dull." Dull. That word entered Emily's chest like a knife. She got up from the chair and went inside the house, locked the bathroom door, and cried silently. She didn't want anyone to hear. She didn't want to give more reasons to be seen as too serious or dull. When she returned to the yard 20 minutes later with red eyes, no one asked if she was okay. No one had noticed that she had left. Except Barbara, who looked at her daughter with sadness in her eyes, knowing exactly what had happened. But that was just the beginning. At Jessica's 18th birthday, the whole family gathered at a restaurant. There were about 40 guests. Emily was there, dressed nicely, trying to be happy for her sister despite everything. At toast time, James raised his wine glass and started speaking. "I want to make a toast to my daughter Jessica, 18 years old. I can't believe how fast time has gone by." He looked at Jessica with so much love that Emily felt a pang in her chest. "Jessica, you've always been my joy. Since you were little, you light up any place you enter. You're charismatic, funny, beautiful. Any father would be proud to have a daughter like you. I know you're going far in life. Congratulations, my love." Everyone applauded. Jessica cried with emotion. She hugged her father. People took pictures of the moment. Emily was sitting on the other side of the table, waiting, thinking that maybe James would mention her too. After all, she was there. She was Jessica's sister. But he didn't mention her. He sat down and started talking to the guests as if Emily didn't exist. The cousin sitting next to Emily noticed the discomfort. "Odd, your dad really loves Jessica, doesn't he?" she said without malice, but with that cruel honesty that people sometimes have. "Yeah," Emily answered, her voice coming out weak. "He does." The rest of the party was a blur. Emily smiled when she needed to smile, talked when someone started a conversation, but inside she was bleeding. On the way home, sitting in the back seat of the car, she looked out the window and let the tears fall silently while James drove, and Jessica talked excitedly about how perfect the party was. The public comparisons became constant. At every family event, James found a way to praise Jessica and diminish Emily. It wasn't always direct, sometimes it was subtle, but Emily always felt it. On Thanksgiving, when the family gathered at the grandparents' house, someone asked about the girls. James answered with a smile. Jessica is incredible. She started college, she's making friends, having fun. She was born to live life intensely. And Emily? Well, Emily has always been more focused on studies. She's not much of a socializer. The grandmother looked at Emily with pity. Pity, as if she were a poor thing who didn't know how to have fun. Emily wanted to scream, "I know how to have fun. I have friends. I have a life." But she didn't scream. She just smiled and said, "That's true," and changed the subject as quickly as possible. The relatives started perpetuating the comparisons too. They had absorbed James's narrative and now repeated it like parrots. Aunt Susan always said, "Jessica is so sociable. Emily is more shy, right?" Uncle Dave, "Jessica takes after her father, outgoing. Emily is more quiet." At a summer barbecue, the teenage cousin asked Emily, "What's it like being Jessica's sister? It must be difficult, right? She gets so much attention." Emily pretended it didn't hurt. "No, it's fine. Everyone is different." "Yeah, but don't you get jealous? Like, your dad is so proud of her. He talks about her all the time." Emily felt her throat tighten. "No, I'm not jealous. Lie, she was jealous. She had anger. She had pain. But she wasn't going to admit that to anyone." The worst moment happened at Barbara's birthday. The family gathered to celebrate her 50th birthday. It was a big party, with many guests. At toast time, James made a point of calling Jessica to his side. "I want to make a toast to my wonderful wife and thank God for giving me 2 daughters." He put his arm around Jessica. "Especially this one, who's so much like me." "Jessica, you're my pride." Emily was on the other side of the room. She wasn't called for the toast. She wasn't mentioned beyond 2 daughters. It was as if she were just a number, not a person. People started looking at Emily with discomfort. Some looked away. Others whispered. Everyone noticed what was happening, but no one said anything. Barbara saw it. She walked to Emily and held her hand tightly. "I love you, my daughter. You know that, right?" Emily just nodded, because if she tried to speak, she would cry. And she had already cried too much in public because of that. The public shame wasn't just about what James said. It was about what he didn't say. It was about being forgotten, left aside, treated as if she didn't matter, and everyone seeing it. It was having her pain exposed and no one doing anything to help. Emily started avoiding family events. She made excuses. She had a test. She had work. She wasn't feeling well. Anything to not have to go through the humiliation again. But she couldn't avoid everything. And every time she was forced to be present, it was another scar. More proof that she had no value in her father's eyes. Another moment when the whole world witnessed her rejection. And you know what's saddest? Emily started to believe she deserved that. That maybe she really was dull, worthless. Because when you hear something so many times, especially from someone you love, you start to believe it. Has this ever happened to you? Being compared to someone in front of other people? Feeling that shame burning inside while everyone watches? Leave it here in the comments, because I know this pain is real and you're not alone. The years went by, and Emily built a life that looked good on paper. She had her own apartment 20 minutes from her parents' house. She woke up every day, went to work as an analyst at a marketing company, came home, met friends on weekends. To anyone on the outside, she was fine. But inside, she was destroyed. The pain of rejection had grown with her. It hadn't stayed behind in childhood. It had come along, like a shadow that never disappeared. And it was affecting every part of her life in ways that Emily was only beginning to understand. At work, Emily was good. Creative, dedicated, always delivered projects on time. But she had a problem. She needed constant approval. Every email she sent to her boss, she reread 5 times before sending. Every presentation, she rehearsed until she memorized it. Every feedback she took personally. When her boss praised her, Emily felt on top of the world for a few minutes. But soon, the feeling passed, and she went back to feeling empty, insecure, needing more validation. When he criticized something, even if it was simple constructive criticism, Emily panicked. She spent hours redoing the work, losing sleep, torturing herself. Because criticism, to Emily, meant rejection. And rejection was the thing she feared most in the world. Her best friend, Sarah, noticed. "Emily, you need to stop being so hard on yourself. Your boss just asked you to change the color of the slide. It's not the end of the world." "I know," Emily said. But she didn't know. She couldn't separate professional criticism from personal rejection. To her, everything was proof that she wasn't good enough. In relationships, too. Emily had dated a few guys in recent years. Nothing serious, nothing that lasted more than a few months. And always for the same reason. She needed too much validation. She would text and get anxious waiting for a response. If the guy took too long to respond, she already imagined he was losing interest. She needed to hear that she was beautiful, intelligent, special, and when she heard it, she never truly believed it. An ex had told her once, "Emily, you're incredible. But it's like you don't believe it, like you're always expecting me to abandon you." And he was right. Emily always expected to be abandoned. Because if her own father couldn't love her, why would anyone else? She compared herself to everyone all the time. She saw a coworker receive a compliment and thought, "Why her and not me?" She saw a friend posting a happy photo with family and felt a pang of envy. She saw couples on the street and wondered why she couldn't have a healthy relationship. Emily was living, but she wasn't really alive. She was just surviving, carrying that old pain that had never healed. Family events had become torture. Emily avoided them as much as she could. She made excuses not to go to birthdays, parties, barbecues. Barbara called, tried to convince her, but Emily always had a reason. Work, travel, fatigue. The truth? She couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't stand watching Jessica being loved while she was ignored. She couldn't stand the comparisons. She couldn't stand pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. But there was one event that Barbara insisted she couldn't miss: Christmas. "Emily, please." "It's Christmas. The whole family will be there. You can't spend Christmas alone in your apartment." Emily wanted to say no. She wanted to make up any excuse. But Barbara's voice was so sad, so tired, that she didn't have the heart. "Okay, Mom, I'll go." In the weeks before Christmas, Emily started to feel anxiety growing. She knew what was going to happen. She knew Jessica would arrive with some exciting news. She knew James would make a big deal out of it. She knew she would be invisible again. She thought about pretending to be sick at the last minute, but she didn't do it, because deep down, a small, foolish part of her still had hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this Christmas things would be different. The frustration inside Emily had transformed into something darker in recent months. It wasn't just sadness anymore, it was anger. Anger at James for never having tried to really know her. Anger at Jessica for accepting all that love as if it were natural. Anger at herself for still caring after so many years. She had started therapy 3 months ago. The therapist was helping her understand that the pain she felt was valid, that it wasn't her fault, that she had a right to feel hurt. But understanding and healing were different things. "Emily, have you ever thought about confronting your father?" the therapist had asked in the last session. "No," Emily had answered too quickly. "It wouldn't do any good." "How do you know?" "Because I know him. He would deny it, or he would say I'm exaggerating, or he simply wouldn't care." "What if you did it for you, not for him, to get it off your chest?" Emily had thought about that in the following days, but she couldn't imagine confronting James. She couldn't imagine saying out loud all those things she felt. She couldn't imagine exposing herself like that and risking being rejected once more. So Emily kept everything inside, like she always did. She swallowed the pain, pretended everything was fine, and continued living that life that looked good on the outside, but was empty on the inside. On Christmas Eve, Emily was in her apartment choosing an outfit for dinner the next day. She picked a green dress she had bought the week before. Beautiful, elegant, but nothing flashy. Because Emily had learned not to draw attention, she had learned to be small, not to take up space, not to bother. She looked in the mirror and saw a 23-year-old woman who looked too tired for her age. She saw sad eyes, slumped shoulders, the expression of someone carrying an invisible weight. "Just one more Christmas," she said to herself. "You can handle one more." But what Emily didn't know was that this Christmas wasn't going to be like the others. This Christmas was going to change everything, because there's a limit to how much pain a person can swallow. And Emily was about to reach hers. The parents' house was decorated with Christmas lights, wreaths on the door, a huge tree in the living room full of ornaments. It smelled like roasted turkey and apple pie. The table was set with the special red tablecloth that Barbara only used at Christmas. There were 20 people there. The parents, Jessica, the grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins. Emily arrived with a forced smile on her face. She hugged everyone, said everything was fine, grabbed a glass of wine and tried to blend in. But the anxiety was there, squeezing her chest, reminding her that something bad always happened at these gatherings. Jessica arrived half an hour later, radiant as always. Effusive hugs, loud laughter, everyone wanting to talk to her. Emily watched from afar, sipping the wine slowly, counting the minutes until she could leave. When everyone sat down for dinner, Barbara served the food with Emily's help. The buzz of conversations filled the room. Everything seemed normal, until Jessica tapped the glass with a spoon, asking for attention. "Everyone, I have news," Jessica announced, with that wide smile. "I got a promotion at work. I'm going to be sales manager." The table exploded in celebration. Applause, shouts of "Congratulations," hugs. James got up from his chair, went to Jessica, and hugged her tight. "My daughter, I always knew you'd go far. You're incredible." The grandparents got up to hug her too. Aunt Susan took a picture. Uncle Dave refilled Jessica's glass. It was a party within a party. Emily applauded too, because that's what was expected of her. But she felt that familiar pain returning, that feeling of being invisible while everyone looked at her sister. When the celebration calmed down and people went back to eating, Emily took a deep breath. There was something she wanted to share too. Something good. Something that maybe, just maybe, would make James look at her with pride. "I have news too," Emily said, her voice coming out lower than she wanted. Some people looked at her. Others kept talking. James was carving the turkey. Emily spoke louder. "I got promoted too. I'm going to lead the company's most important project next quarter." Barbara smiled, genuinely. "That's wonderful, my love. Congratulations." The grandmother said something about being proud. Some cousins mumbled congratulations, but there wasn't that explosion of joy. There weren't collective hugs. There weren't photos. And then James spoke. Without even lifting his eyes from his plate, with that casual tone that cut like a knife. "You should be more like your sister." Time stopped. Emily felt like she had been punched in the stomach. She looked at her father, hoping he would say it was a joke, that he was smiling, that he hadn't said that. But James was serious, carving the turkey, as if he had just made a comment about the weather. Silence took over the table, heavy, awkward. People started looking away. Some coughed unnecessarily. Others looked at their plates as if they were the most interesting thing in the world. Emily felt tears burning in her eyes, her heart beating so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Her hands trembling under the table. For years, she had swallowed it. She had accepted it. She had stayed quiet. But something inside her broke at that moment. Something that had been held by a thin thread finally snapped. Emily took a deep breath. The tears were still there, but they weren't going to fall, not this time. She looked directly at James, and when she spoke, Her voice came out shaky, but firm, clear, every word weighing tons. Maybe you should be more like a real father. The silence that was already heavy became deafening. James finally looked up from his plate. Shocked, Barbara's eyes widened, her hand going to her mouth. Jessica went pale. The grandparents froze with their forks in the air. No one moved, no one breathed. Emily didn't stop, because now that she had started, she couldn't stop. The words were coming out, years and years of pain pouring out all at once. I spent my entire life trying to be good enough for you, she continued, her voice breaking but not stopping. Every high grade, every award, every achievement, I did everything right. Everything you always said mattered. And you know what I got? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You never saw me. You never valued me. You never loved me the way you love her. Emily pointed at Jessica, who had tears in her eyes, her mouth open in shock. And you know what? Emily felt the tears finally flowing, but she didn't wipe them. She let them fall. The problem was never me. I always thought it was. I always thought there was something wrong with me. But there wasn't. There isn't. The problem was always you. It was you who never learned to love your two daughters the same way. It was you who chose one and rejected the other. It was you who destroyed your own daughter just because she wasn't exactly how you wanted. James tried to speak. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. No, Emily said, raising her hand. You don't have the right to speak now. You had years to speak. Years to see me. Years to be a real father to me. And you chose not to do it. So now you're going to listen to me. The entire room was frozen. No one dared to interrupt. I'm not doing this anymore, Emily said, her voice firmer now. I'm not going to kill myself anymore, trying to earn love from someone who will never give it. I'm not accepting crumbs anymore. I'm not pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's over. Emily stood up from her chair. She grabbed her purse from the floor. She looked at Barbara, who was crying silently. I'm sorry, Mom. I love you, but I can't anymore. Barbara nodded, tears streaming down. She understood. She always understood. Emily looked at Jessica one last time. She wasn't angry at her. She never really was. Jessica wasn't to blame for being loved. Take care of Mom, was all Emily said. And then she turned her back and walked toward the door. No one tried to stop her. No one said anything. The sound of her footsteps on the wooden floor was the only thing that broke the silence. When Emily reached the door, she put her hand on the doorknob and stopped for a second. Part of her wanted to look back. She wanted to see if James would say something, if he would get up, if he would try to fix it. But she didn't look, because she knew he wasn't going to do any of that. And for the first time in her life, it was okay, because Emily didn't need him anymore. She opened the door and left. The cold night air hit her face, drying the tears. She walked to the car, got in, closed the door, and there, alone in the car parked in front of the house where she grew up, Emily finally felt something she had never felt before. Freedom. Have you ever had to make a decision like this? To distance yourself from someone you love because staying close was destroying you? Leave it here in the comments, because this is one of the hardest decisions anyone can make. Emily drove to her apartment on autopilot. She didn't remember the road, the curves, the traffic lights. She only remembered parking, going up the stairs, locking the door, and finally, letting the crying out. It wasn't a silent cry. It was loud and desperate. Years and years of pain pouring out all at once. She sat on the living room floor, hugged her knees and cried until she had no more tears, until her throat hurt, until her whole body trembled with exhaustion. When she finally stopped, it was already dawn. The house was silent. Emily grabbed her phone. 17 unread messages. The first was from Barbara. My love, call me when you can. I'm worried. I love you. Emily typed a quick response. I'm okay, Mom. I just need some time. I love you too. The other messages were a mix. Aunt Susan, Emily, what you did was horrible. Your father didn't deserve that in front of everyone. Cousin Dave, man, that was intense. Are you okay? Grandmother, my dear, let's talk calmly after everyone cools down. And Jessica, 3 messages from Jessica. Emily, please call me. I didn't know you felt this way. I'm sorry. Emily didn't answer any of them. She threw the phone on the couch and went to take a shower. She stayed under the hot water for 40 minutes, letting exhaustion take over. In the following days, the phone didn't stop ringing. Calls, messages, notifications. It seemed like the whole family had an opinion about what had happened at Christmas. Some supported Emily. Cousin Angela sent a long message saying she had always noticed the different treatment and that Emily had been brave. Sarah, her best friend, showed up at the apartment with pizza and wine and let Emily vent for hours. But others criticized. Uncles and aunts sending messages saying that family was sacred, that you don't talk to your father like that Emily had overreacted, that she should apologize. Some said she had ruined everyone's Christmas, as if their Christmas was more important than her years of pain. Emily read the messages and felt a mixture of anger and sadness. How dare they? How dare they judge without knowing, without having lived what she lived, without having felt what she felt? Barbara called every day. At first, Emily didn't answer, but after 3 days, she answered. Barbara cried on the phone. Emily, I'm so sorry. I always knew. I always saw it, and I didn't do enough to protect you. I'm sorry, my daughter. Mom, it's not your fault, Emily said, her voice tired. You always loved me. You always supported me. You did what you could. Your father is not doing well, Barbara said, hesitantly. Emily laughed without humor. He's not doing well? Now he's not doing well? He's not talking to anyone, locked in his office. I think he's processing everything. Great. He had years to process, years to be a real father. Let him process now. There was one thing Emily was waiting for. A call, a message, an apology. From James. But it didn't come. Days turned into weeks, and nothing, not a word, not an attempt at contact. And that confirmed to Emily that she had made the right decision, because a real father, a father who really cared, would have called, would have tried to fix it, would have, at the very least, asked if she was okay. But James didn't do any of that, and his silence spoke louder than any words. Emily started making decisions, difficult decisions, but necessary ones. She blocked Aunt Susan's number and other relatives who had sent cruel messages. She didn't have the energy to deal with judgments. She sent a message to Barbara setting boundaries. Mom, I love you, but I'm not going to talk about Dad. I'm not going back to the house while he's there, and I'm not participating in family events for now. I need this space. Please respect that. Barbara responded with a broken heart, but respected it. I understand, my love. I'm here when you need me. To Jessica, Emily wrote something longer. Jess, I'm not angry at you. You're not to blame for being loved, but I need time. I need to heal. I need to learn to exist without always comparing myself, always feeling inferior. I hope you understand. Jessica responded immediately. I understand, and I'm so sorry, Emily. Really, when you're ready, I'll be here. The hardest decision was to communicate to the whole family that she was distancing herself. Emily wrote a message in the family group chat, something she never did. Everyone, I need some time away. It's not about you. It's about me taking care of my mental health. I'm leaving this group for now. When I'm ready, I'll come back. Thank you for understanding. And she left. She blocked notifications. She silenced everything that had to do with family. The first days were the worst. Emily felt guilty. She felt like she had abandoned everyone, like she was selfish, like she was overreacting. But then the therapist said something that changed everything. Emily, for years you put everyone else's needs and feelings above your own. For years you destroyed yourself trying to please people who didn't value you. For the first time in your life, you're choosing yourself. That's not selfishness. That's survival. And she was right. Emily was surviving. She was saving herself. Because if she stayed in that toxic environment any longer, she would lose herself completely. Was it painful? Yes. Was it scary? Absolutely. Emily felt alone sometimes, even having friends and having Barbara, because distancing yourself from family, even from a dysfunctional family, hurts. But you know what hurt more? Staying. Continuing to subject herself to that. Continuing to accept being treated as invisible. Continuing to carry that pain that was poisoning every part of her life. So Emily made the choice, the hardest choice of her life, to distance herself, to set boundaries, to say no, to choose her own mental health over the false peace of a family that was never really peaceful. And for the first time in a long time, even with all the pain, even with all the uncertainty, Emily felt she was on the right path, because she was finally choosing herself. The first months were hell. Emily woke up every day with a weight on her chest. Guilt. That suffocating guilt that said she had been cruel, that she had overreacted, that she should have stayed quiet and endured it like she always did. There were nights when she grabbed her phone ready to send a message apologizing, to say she would come back, that everything was fine, that they could forget what had happened. But she always stopped before hitting send, because deep down, she knew that going back would be betraying herself. The loneliness was heavy. Even having friends, even having Barbara calling every day, Emily felt alone in a way she had never felt before. Because one thing is being alone by choice. Another is being alone because you had to distance yourself from the people who were supposed to be your foundation. There were days when she didn't get out of bed, days when she had no energy for anything but existing. Sadness came in waves, some small, others huge, that knocked her down completely. But there was a day, 3 weeks after Christmas, when something changed. Emily was in therapy, in the same chair as always, talking about guilt. I feel horrible. Like I destroyed the family. The therapist tilted her head. Emily, you didn't destroy anything. You just exposed what was already broken. Those words kept echoing in her head for days. She hadn't destroyed anything. She had just stopped pretending everything was okay. Therapy became Emily's safe haven. 1 hour a week where she could say everything, feel everything, without judgment. Where she could process years and years of emotional abuse that she had normalized because it was all she knew. You know that what your father did is considered emotional neglect, right? The therapist said in one session. Emily blinked, confused. Neglect? But he never hit me. He never yelled. Abuse isn't just physical, Emily. Consistently ignoring a child's emotional needs, extreme favoritism, constant comparisons, rejection, that's all abuse. And it leaves scars just as deep as any other form. It was the first time Emily had permission to call it by its right name. Abuse. She had been emotionally abused her entire life, and it wasn't her fault. Over time, the guilt started to diminish. Slowly, but it diminished. Emily started to understand that choosing her own mental health wasn't selfishness, it was necessity. And then, something interesting started to happen. Emily started to feel something she had never felt before. Freedom. Freedom to be who she was without fear of judgment. Freedom to make choices based on what she wanted, not on what she thought would impress someone. Freedom to exist without constantly comparing herself to Jessica. Emily started small. She rediscovered things she liked and had abandoned. Painting. She used to paint when she was younger, but stopped because it wasn't useful or impressive enough. She bought paints, brushes, canvases. At first, she felt ridiculous, an adult painting at home like a child. But as she painted, she felt something loosening inside her. It didn't need to be perfect. It didn't need to impress anyone. It was just hers. She started walking in the park near her apartment every morning before work. No headphones, no rush, just her, nature, and her own thoughts. Sometimes she cried during the walks. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she simply existed. She made new friends too, people who met her as she was now, without all the family baggage, people who valued her naturally, without Emily needing to prove anything. There was a new friend, Rachel, who Emily met at a yoga class. They went out for coffee after class and talked for 3 hours. At no point did Emily feel like she needed to be perfect or impress. It was just easy. "You're so cool," Rachel said at the end. "Let's do this again." And Emily realized something important. She was cool, she had value, not because of achievements or external approval, simply for being who she was. At work, Emily changed too. She stopped rereading emails 5 times before sending. She stopped panicking at every criticism. She started trusting her own work and accepting feedback without internalizing it as personal rejection. Her boss noticed, "Emily, you're different lately, more confident. You're doing excellent work." Before, Emily would have desperately needed that compliment. She would have held on to it as if it were a life preserver saving her from drowning. But now, she thanked him, felt good, but didn't need that to feel validated. Because slowly, gradually, Emily was learning something revolutionary. She could validate herself. She started small. Every day before sleeping, she wrote 3 good things about herself or about the day. At first it was difficult. I finished the project on time. I was kind to the barista. Small things, but over time, it got easier. I'm good at what I do. I'm a loyal friend. I'm strong for having made the difficult choice to distance myself. Emily was building an authentic life for the first time. A life based on what she really wanted, not on what she thought she should want to please others. She stopped forcing herself to go to social events she hated just to seem sociable. She stopped wearing uncomfortable clothes just because they were trendy. She stopped accepting invitations from people who exhausted her. And she started doing what she really liked, reading entire books on Sunday in pajamas, cooking new recipes, watching documentaries about art history, simple things that brought genuine joy. Barbara visited sometimes, always alone. They had tea, talked, laughed. Barbara updated Emily about the family carefully, respecting boundaries. James was never mentioned unless Emily asked, and she didn't ask. "You're different," Barbara said on one visit, looking at her daughter with tears in her eyes. "Lighter, more you." "I'm finding myself," Emily answered. And it was true. She wasn't healed. She still had bad days. She still had moments of doubt and guilt. She still had scars that probably would never completely disappear. But she was better. She was building something new, something solid, something no one could take from her because it came from within. Emily was learning that her identity didn't depend on James's approval, that her value wasn't tied to being like Jessica, that she was enough exactly as she was. And for the first time in her life, she was starting to truly believe it. Have you gone through this process of rebuilding yourself after distancing yourself from something or someone that was destroying you? How was it for you? Leave it in the comments. I want to know. 2 years had passed since that Christmas. Emily was sitting on the couch in her new apartment, bigger and brighter than the previous one, drinking coffee and looking out the window. It was Saturday morning. The sun was streaming in through the half-open curtain, and she had the whole day ahead of her. No guilt, no anxiety, just peace. Who was this woman now? She barely recognized the Emily from 2 years ago. That girl desperate for approval, killing herself to be seen, carrying pain so heavy it suffocated. She was still there, somewhere inside Emily, but she wasn't in control anymore. The life Emily had built was different from anything she had imagined. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't magazine-worthy, but it was hers, genuinely hers. Work had changed too. 6 months ago, Emily had been promoted to creative director. Not because she desperately kept proving her worth, but because she was good at what she did. Simple as that. And when she got the news, she celebrated alone in her car, called Barbara and Sarah, and didn't feel even a hint of need for external validation beyond the genuine joy of sharing with those she loved. She had a boyfriend now too, Kevin. She had met him 9 months ago at an art exhibition. He was a history teacher, kind, funny, and completely different from anyone Emily had been with before. At first, Emily was afraid. Afraid of repeating old patterns, of becoming that needy girl who needed constant validation. But it didn't happen. Because Emily had learned something fundamental. She didn't need Kevin to feel complete. She was already complete. Kevin just added to it. When he said, "I love you," for the first time, Emily didn't panic, questioning whether it was true or if he was going to abandon her. She simply believed it, because she had learned that she was worthy of love. She always was. Hobbies had become an essential part of her life. She painted almost every weekend. She had even sold some canvases at a local art fair. It wasn't about money or recognition. It was about the pure joy of creating something with her own hands. She walked in the park every morning. She had even adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Charlie, who went with her. That dog she had drawn as a child finally realized, but not because someone had given permission. Because she had chosen. Friendships were healthy now. Rachel had become her best friend, along with Sarah. She had a group of friends from yoga class. She had co-workers she went out with occasionally. Light, true relationships, without that need to prove she deserved to be there. Emily had learned to say no without guilt. Didn't want to go to the party. "I won't be able to, but thank you for the invitation." Didn't have energy to socialize. "I need some time alone today." Simple, honest, without excessive justification, and most importantly, Emily had stopped comparing herself. She saw photos of other people on social media and no longer felt that pang of envy or inadequacy. She could genuinely be happy for others' achievements because they didn't threaten her value. Therapy continued, once a month now, just for maintenance. Emily had processed so much. She had cried, she had screamed, she had felt anger, she had forgiven herself. She had understood that what James did was about him, not about her, that she was never the problem. "You've completely transformed," the therapist said in the last session, smiling with genuine pride. "I found myself," Emily answered. And it was true. Barbara visited more frequently now. The relationship between them had strengthened. Without James in the middle, without having to balance loyalties, they could simply be mother and daughter. Jessica had tried to make contact a few times. Careful messages, respecting Emily's space. They had met for lunch twice in the past year. Uncomfortable conversations at first, but honest. "I didn't realize," Jessica had said, with tears in her eyes. "I didn't realize how much you suffered." "I should have realized. It wasn't your responsibility," Emily answered. And it was true. The responsibility was always James's. They weren't close like some sisters are. Maybe they never would be. But there was respect there. And who knows, with time, there could be more. And then, 3 weeks ago, Barbara had called with news. "Emily, your father wants to talk to you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. After 2 years of absolute silence, James wanted to talk. What did he say? That he wants to talk, that he needs to talk to you. Emily took a deep breath. Part of her, that little child who still lived inside, felt a hint of hope. Had he finally understood? Was he going to apologize? But the adult Emily, the one who had grown and healed, knew she couldn't have expectations. "Mom, I'll only talk to him if it's done right." "What do you mean?" "If he acknowledges what he did. If he understands that he hurt me. If he apologizes for real, without empty excuses or justifications. If he's willing to do the work to fix it, not just put a Band-Aid over it and pretend everything is okay." "And if he doesn't do that?" Barbara asked, already knowing the answer. "Then I won't talk. And that's okay, because I don't need him anymore to be happy." And it was the purest truth Emily had ever said in her life. She didn't need him. The hole that James had left still existed. Always would. But Emily had learned to live with it. She had filled her life with things and people that really mattered. Her identity was no longer tied to being James's daughter. It was no longer tied to being Jessica's sister. It wasn't tied to any role or external expectation. Emily was simply Emily, and that was more than enough. 3 days after the conversation with Barbara, James sent a message. Short, direct. "Can we talk?" Emily looked at the message for a long time. She thought about everything she had lived through. All the pain, all the struggle, all the rebuilding. She thought about the child who cried into her pillow so many nights. She thought about the teenager who killed herself trying to be good enough. She thought about the young adult who finally had the courage to break free. And then she typed the response. "Only if you're ready to acknowledge what you did and apologize for real. If you're not ready for that, then I'm not ready to talk." She sent it and waited. The response didn't come. Days passed, then weeks. James didn't respond. And Emily was at peace, because she had finally understood the most important lesson. She didn't need his forgiveness, his apology, his love to be complete. She was already complete. She always was. That Saturday morning, sitting on the couch with Charlie at her feet and coffee in her hand, Emily smiled. A genuine smile that came from within, because for the first time in her life, she was really living, not surviving, not proving herself, not fighting, living. And that was more than she ever imagined was possible. Emily's story teaches us something powerful. Your worth never depended on the approval of those who don't know how to see you. Sometimes, the hardest decision is the most necessary one. Choosing yourself isn't selfishness, it's survival. Emily spent years destroying herself, trying to earn a love she should never have had to earn. But when she finally broke free, she discovered something incredible. She was always enough. If this story touched your heart, tell me, what did you learn from Emily's journey? How can you apply this lesson in your life? Leave it here in the comments. I really want to read it. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, share this video. Give it a like to help more people find this message. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more stories that can change your life. Thank you for being here with me until the end.